good?
Yeah.
Demo? Okay.
We're gonna have some dimmers put on. Yeah. I didn't realize it was that much of a problem. We'll have dimmers put on.
You ready?
Did the light bother you? Oh, yeah, that's my turn. No, it's not right. Yeah, mine, and then maybe we can go out. I didn't know that you. Yeah, okay.
All set, guys? I'd like to convene a regular meeting of the Smithfield Town Council. In order, there was no votes taken in executive session. This regular meeting was 7 p.m. Non-executive session votes required, which we didn't do any. I'd like to take a moment to recognize 3 individuals in Smithfield who this week have passed away. Joe Peterson, Iannatelli, Reynolds Lillibridge, and Albert Ghisarelli Sr. A moment of silence, please. Thank you. Now, the prayer. The Lord help us make good team decisions. We're incredibly promoting unity within our organization. Each of us offers unique perspectives on the work that we do, and we bring different talents, skills, and vision to our jobs and to our group. Amen. Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one Emergency evacuation and health notification.
In the event of an emergency, there are two exits out of the council chambers. One is directly to the rear as you go through the door. The stairwell is to your right and it leads out to the front of the building. And to my right, in the front of the council chambers, there's also an exit with a stairwell that leads out to the side of the building. And in the event of an emergency, please do not use the elevator. And the ladies' room and men's room directly out the rear door of the auditorium. Ladies' room is to the left, men's room is to the right.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Presentation, there's none. Minutes, there's none. Number 7, consider the discussion act upon the following possible appointments to reappointments. The Budget and Financial Review Board appointment with the term expiring 2026. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that the Smithfield Town Council appoint Crescenzo Conti to the Budget and Financial Review Board for a term expiring in January of 2026.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. Budget and Financial Review Board appointment with the term expiring January 2027. Do I have a motion?
Mr. President, I move that the Smithfield Town Council appoint Ian McLean to the Budget and Financial Review Board for a term expiring in January of 2027.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Nays? Ayes have it. Item C, Housing Authority appointment. We're going to move that appointment to December 17th. Zoning Board appointment. Item D will be moving to.
Motion to continue item C and item D to the next meeting on 12/17.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Nays? We have appointment number E, which is the Town Sergeant appointment.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President. After the 2022 election, the town manager was looking for a town sergeant to serve after Ken Brown had been the town sergeant, I think, for decades here. And so I looked around and I asked Paul Izzo, our current town sergeant, to apply. Paul had 28 years of experience working for the United States Postal Service. He managed over 75 employees as an officer in charge. He was a National Center for Employee Development instructor for over 3 years. He was a primary instructor for the Associate Supervisor Program of the Providence Post Office. His supervisory roles also gave him experience and knowledge in de-escalation and conflict resolution. He indicated that the Postal Service had used him in various areas to handle conflict. Mr. Izzo has served as our town sergeant for, he was actually appointed in February of 2023 and has served well as our town sergeant since then. The town charter indicates that the position of town sergeant is not a term-limited position, but rather the town council, the town sergeant is appointed by the town council to serve at the council's pleasure. That being so, and having no term limit, there presently is no vacancy in the position of town sergeant. Therefore, there is no reason to appoint a new town sergeant since there is no vacancy. It's basically why I will be voting no for the appointment of a new town sergeant. There have been no complaints, no indications to me why Mr. Izzo should be replaced. The only thing I can imagine is that this is being viewed at by the majority on this council as a patronage position. That's the only thing I can imagine at this point.
It wasn't a patronage position before?
As I said, I believe Mr. Brown served as town council, as town sergeant for many, many years. I don't know if we have a record on that, but.
Okay.
Do you know?
I think he served, Mr. Brown was there probably for like 15 years, 20 years.
Any other discussion? There's a motion on the floor. There's a second. Roll call vote, please.
Member Toppy,
No.
Member Ionati,
No.
Member Winfield.
Yes.
Vice President Bogus. Aye.
Yes. Motion passes 3-2. Schedule a public hearing, but before we do that, I want to read something that the solicitor and I talked about this morning. I'd like to thank Commerce and the representatives of Commerce for attending the meeting tonight in the interest of locating their business in Smithfield. Also, without speaking to the rest of the members of council, that we look forward to working with you and address any issues related to the application for the tax stabilization agreement, and will eventually come before the council as part of a public hearing process and receiving input from the town's budget and financial review. As far as the process, the council will notice that the proposed amendments to the tax stabilization for the public hearing and is the next meeting and would result in a public hearing that will occur in January. These proposed amendments would clarify some of the provisions in the existing ordinance and would address some of the issues raised in the application for the tax stabilization agreement submitted by Orbis last month. Please feel free to reach out to the town manager and appoint during any process that you have questions and concerns. With that being said, schedule the public hearing on January 7th to consider the act upon the Code of Ordinance and amendments to Chapter 321 entitled Taxation, Article 6, exempting a stabilization of tax on qualified commercial or manufactured property. Yes.
So, council members and audience, so we have a draft version of an updated tax TSA ordinance. It has been reviewed by the solicitor, the assessor, myself. Councilman Ionati has looked at it as well. It is a draft, and it would require a public hearing, which we're requesting on January 7th, at which time any amendments, either from the council or the public, can be added to it and voted on by the town council. I ask that you consider having the having the hearing on January 7th, because we do have some advertising time involved with this, and we would need to advertise it between now and January 7th to get it in the appropriate papers. If we go any further than this week, then we'll have to push the hearing off, so.
And the draft amendments are going to be presented to the public too.
Yes, as
Well
part,
in advance next week.
if we advertise, it'll be part of the advertisement.
Right.
And the council members, you already have the draft, and that is, as part of the public advertisement, the actual draft is available in the clerk's office.
Okay, very good. Organizers, the floor is yours.
No, you're going to schedule there's going to be a motion to schedule a public hearing.
No, we're not scheduling. Wait a minute. Let's schedule a public hearing until next week.
All right, can we have a motion to,
December 17th. You're going to move the scheduling of the public hearing until
14 days?
We already calculated this.
you still have enough time,
Not-
right? You have enough time for the public hearing?
No, next week.
Yeah, right. You cover yourself.
No, like, counted
It's a week from Tuesday, a week from today. It's the 17th.
Right, but the public hearing's not gonna be till January 7th.
Right.
It's 3 weeks.
So it's gonna run in the newspaper for the
Yeah.
two consecutive
In the
weeks.
following week,
Right.
that would bring us to January.
But they have to, the advertisement has to be in by Monday,
Right,
so you have your meetings on Tuesday.
right. It would bring it to the beginning of January.
Motion to schedule the public hearing for January 7th.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Nays?
No.
No.
Chris?
Thank you, Council President. As you discussed, we have a team from Organogenesis who is looking to occupy the vacant 100 Technology Way building, which has been vacant a couple of years. We've been in discussions. We are working on a tax stabilization agreement. They have an application in. And tonight, we have Pat Bilbo he is the COO of Organogenesis, and he's going to give us a slideshow and explain what they do and how it's going to benefit the town if they come here and occupy that building. Give me a sec on the fire up the projector.
Control.
Well, it's gonna smash the thing. Isn't this heavy? Didn't you say?
Who's the most unprofessional conversation? You can't table all the time. Wait to schedule the public hearing. That I want the case. Still on January 7th. Do it next week. You know what I'm saying? We're scheduling the public hearing for next week. We're moving this item.
Does that work? Yeah. Okay. Check, check.
Did I not just give you this?
Great. Well, good evening. As Chris said, my name is Patrick Bilbo. I'm Chief Operating Officer for Organogenesis, and we really thank you for welcoming us here tonight. I'm joined by several colleagues. Arthur Paul Petrosinelli, he's our Director of Government Relations. Bill, who's our Assistant Vice President of Facilities and will be managing the building project, and Matt Pambianchi, who's with PwC, who's helped us and consulting with us and helping us with the state and local incentives. So really what we want to do is give you an overview of Organogenesis so you really understand who we are, where we come from, and a little bit about the project that we're going to be, we've already kicked it off at 100 Tech, and we're really very excited about it, so it's great to be here for the first time in front of you. So really we are sort of a hybrid of a biotech and medical technology company. And our mission is to provide healing and tissue solutions to improve the lives while also having cost-effective outcomes and lowering the cost of healthcare. And we've been doing that for quite some time now with very good success. And our vision is to bring our technologies, our broad portfolio, and develop products, manufacture them, and we have a full commercial capability to bring those technologies to the markets of advanced wound care, surgical products, as well as sports medicine markets. So we were founded in 1985 as a spinoff of technology developed at MIT in the laboratory of Dr. Eugene Bell, who's really considered to be the grandfather, if you will, of tissue engineering and regenerative medicine. And he formed the company and it started in a small facility in Cambridge. And we moved down to Canton, Massachusetts in 1992. And we're very proud that we were the first company to get FDA approval for a living cell-based manufactured product, our Apligraf product. We've been manufacturing commercial product since 1998, and our product Apligraf was originally commercialized by Novartis Pharmaceuticals, but in 2004, we took the product back and we became a vertically integrated, fully commercial company at that point and have been ever since. We became publicly traded actually for the second time in 2018. We had a period of about 14 years where we were a private company, and we're now listed on NASDAQ under ORGO. And our revenue guidance for 2024 is in the range of $455 million to $480 million, and our quarterly earnings for the third quarter of the year were on track. So we're really a pioneer in cellular and tissue-based innovations, and we're really one of the leading companies in our area. We have several locations across the country. We are headquarters in Canton. We have R&D facilities there, commercial, corporate offices, as well as a manufacturing facility. We're in 4 buildings on our campus there. We also have a facility nearby in Norwood, which it's listed there as R&D, but it's a manufacturing facility, and we're in pre-commercial stage for that and expect to go live next year for manufacturing there. We've got a small commercial operation in St. Petersburg, Florida. In Birmingham, Alabama, we have an R&D facility, and in San Diego, California, we have an R&D facility and some West Coast commercial offices. We also have a small operation in Switzerland. We're primarily a US-based company. We've got a direct sales force of over 260 folks across the United States. Many of us have been with the company for many years. I've been with the company for over 30 years, and 4 of my colleagues on the executive team have been with the company for more than 20 years. We're led by Gary Gilheeney. He's been our CEO for more than 10 years now, and prior to that was COO and CFO. He was born and raised as a resident of Johnston, Rhode Island, and he's a graduate of the Bryant University MBA program. So he's very entrenched in Rhode Island. But we believe that we have a very strong leadership that's helped to build the company and diversify the company. So the markets that we develop and sell our products into are very large markets, and they're growing markets because they're primarily, the demographics are increasing. The patients that are afflicted by skin wounds, which is currently our primary market. We also have surgical implant products as well as surgical wound care products, and the emerging market that we hope to have an FDA-approved product for soon is for osteoarthritis, the first indication there being knee osteoarthritis. So obviously very big and growing markets that we are participating in. We have a number of products that are on the market. The first product that we launched was our Apligraf product. It's a living cell therapy product for the treatment of 2 types of skin wounds, patients who have diabetic foot ulcers and also those that have venous leg ulcers. We have other living cell-based products such as Affinity and Novacure. We have amniotic placental-derived products such as NuShield and Cygnus Dual. And then we have some collagen biomaterial products with antimicrobial products, which are very important for treating wounds because all wounds have some level of contamination. So that's a product that helps to deal with that very serious aspect of chronic and acute wounds. I won't go into detail on this, just to say that we have a very strong pipeline of products, and these are just the ones that we publicly disclose. We have a number of other that are earlier stage products. So based on our 4 technology platforms, we have a number of products that are at different stages of development, but some new products that are very close to the market. And, one area that we're currently not in is the burn market. So patients that have severe burn markets, we actually have 2 FDA-approved products that aren't being manufactured or distributed and would be manufactured at the Smithfield 100 Tech facility. So that's very important to bring those products back to market. And our Renew product is what we're a biologic product that we're developing for the treatment of knee osteoarthritis. Very exciting opportunity for us. We're just now sort of in the middle of completing our second large phase 3 clinical trial, which had a positive interim analysis. Our first trial was successful and showed a significant decrease in the pain that patients have with knee osteoarthritis, as well as maintaining the function. So we're on track to submit the application to the FDA by the end of next year for approval. And if all goes well, we would be on the market about a year later. So it's a huge opportunity for the company, and really an area where we would be diversifying from our more traditional wound healing, wound care business. Just quickly, so you get a sense of what we're already doing for manufacturing and how the 100 Tech facility would fit into that portfolio. We're currently manufacturing several products in-house at our Canton facility, and we've been manufacturing there for over 20 years, commercial product, and as well as at our Norwood facility, which is where we're going to be manufacturing the Renew product, and we're preparing for launch for that product. We also use a number of different contract manufacturers, and our long-term goal is to bring those products in-house and manufacture them ourselves. But it really, in terms of speed to market and ability to have significant capacity, we usually went with contract manufacturers. And then these are the 3 products that are waiting for a manufacturing home and would be manufactured in the 100 Tech facility. And again, very important products. Dermagraft was a product that was on the market for many years. We had a manufacturing facility in San Diego, and our lease ran out. We couldn't get the owners in Alexandria to extend the lease, so we simply had to exit the facility and take the products off the market. But the Dermagraft product has over 1 million patient treatments, so it's a very significant product that we're going to be bringing back to the market at 100 Tech. So the project, it's taken quite some time to get through the process of determining that it was an appropriate facility for us, and work through the negotiations of the lease with the Davis Company, the owners of the company. But a few weeks ago, we were able to sign the lease. Very significant event for the company. So the facility, every time I see that picture, I get very excited because we can't wait to really get in there and start manufacturing. We do have the keys to the facility now, and Bill and his team are working on the project. But those are the products that we'll be manufacturing. Some we're bringing from our facility in Canton. We'll eventually be shutting down that facility in Canton. But the big advantage to this facility for us is the existing clean rooms that Rubius Therapeutics built. That gives us the ability to get that Dermagraft product back on the market faster than any other option we saw in the Boston, Rhode Island market. So the project is, as I've already said, to bring those 3 products, 2 products and 1 product line. Our PureApply line is multiple products. We are in the process now of going through the RFP process for selecting the construction management firm. We've already been working with lead candidates for that. And these are the, you know, the top life sciences biotech building companies such as DPR and Suffolk and Skanska that we're, you know, going through this RFP process with. So we would, you know, start construction for one of next year and complete it several years later. And it's a several phase process, and we're going to be staging the different products throughout the course of the building project. And we would expect to have initial commencement of commercial operations in the middle of 2027. Our hiring commitment, you know, at a minimum is 100 jobs. We expect over time for that to grow significantly, but that's certainly what we were able to identify and commit to initially in the project plan. Won't go into detail here, but this is the layout of the facility. One, just to show you that we've already been doing significant design work that was really part of the lease process. We had to, you know, demonstrate to Davis Companies what we've been doing with the facility. But if you look at the upper right section there, the green section, that's the existing clean rooms. So that really, again, allows us to get our Dermagraft product back on the market in a relatively short period of time. Towards the left, those different colored areas are different classification clean rooms, and that's what we'll be building for the products we're bringing down from Canton. The great thing about this facility, there's already QC labs, there's already a fully built out office facility with all the fittings and a lot of infrastructure in the facility. So it's a great facility to start the process for us. The project timeline for you know, any FDA approved product, you go through certain phases. Obviously, we have to, you know, complete the design work, which we've been working on for months now. And then the construction starts in a couple months. And the construction is going to be in two phases. We have a little bit of construction to do around the existing clean rooms to be able to have things like what we call a freezer farm, because we have a, you know, cryopreserved product that we're going to be storing. So there's the construction of around the existing clean rooms, and then the build out. The next phase is the build out of the larger area or unfinished area. And then we have to validate the equipment, the processes, and then do the tech transfer where we're actually starting to manufacture the product there. And then there's an FDA approval process. FDA has to come in and inspect the facility. So all that's built into the project plan, and in total, it's a 4 to 5 year plan, but we do get commercial product out of there sooner. So the benefits to the town, I think some of these are obvious. The facility's been you know, unoccupied for several years now, so we're excited to get in there and bring life to a really nice facility. You know, we've been around a long time. We have significant revenues. We believe that we're going to be a really good partner to the town and to the state. When we get operating in that facility, we're going to support the local economy in a number of different ways. We expect many of our existing employees to, you know, be able to commute from where they currently live, but we also expect some to move. We expect to recruit employees that would move and purchase homes. So we've seen a number of ways that we're going to support the local economy and supporting the local community. We've been in the town of Canton, Mass for over 30 years now. We've been a real integral part of that community. We have a $10,000 scholarship that we fund every year for a high school student that's in STEM. We do a lot within the town. We're excited about being right next to Bryant University. We've already done programs with Bryant. We've trained their physician assistant program. We've come in and done some training on wound healing. And Gary has presented to the MBA program there. So we look forward to expanding that, and with URI, I think in what we've done locally in Massachusetts is really through Mass Bio, and we would do it with Rhode Island Bio, really get to building the infrastructure around education for life sciences and biotechnology. So I think there's a lot of upside here for Organogenesis and the town partnering. The support, We've been working for a number of months now and really happy that we've gotten incentives approved, and of course, they're contingent on the tax stabilization agreement with the town of Smithfield, but through Rhode Island Commerce, we are getting tax credit out of the Rebuild Rhode Island Tax Credit Fund and the Qualified Jobs Incentive Tax Credit, and also a grant from the relatively new Rhode Island Life Sciences Hub, getting a business attraction grant. So very important to us, and we really appreciate what the state of Rhode Island has welcomed us and what they're doing for us and the town of Smithfield. So just want to thank you for the time, and hopefully that gives you a little bit of better sense of who we are, and we will be committed to the facility and the town of Smithfield and the state of Rhode Island. Thank you. Is there any questions?
Yeah, sure. You said that the facility will require FDA approval.
There's several of the products. Some types of products don't require FDA approval, but some do.
Now, what about the product itself that you plan to manufacture there? Has that received FDA approval already, or is that pending?
Every product that we'll be manufacturing there has been FDA approved. And again, as I said, the products that were manufactured out in the San Diego facility that we had to exit are FDA approved, and unfortunately have been off the market for several years now. So very important products. It's not easy to get FDA approval for those types of products. So the sooner we get them back on the market, the better it is for the patients that can benefit from them.
I have a question. So we've had Rubius, we've had Dow Chemical, and now we have you. What is the difference between your company and the companies that left financially and workforce-wise? I didn't see anything up there. Maybe I missed it. How many employees that you may hire for this?
Yeah. So we committed to initially a little over 100 employees. We would expect over time that can increase, but that was the initial commitment. We've been around a long time. We're one of the oldest biotech companies. We're almost 40 years we've been around. We have really good products that have stood the test of time, and we introduce new products regularly. We're a leader in our field of advanced wound healing products. We have the largest commercial force. We have over, when you include management, we have probably 350 people in total in our field-based commercial and related force. So we have a very significant commercial capability. And for our Renew product that's currently in late-stage clinical trial process, we intend to build the same type of commercial capabilities for that product. It's a different market for us. We have significant revenues, and we've been growing. Again, our guide for this year is in the 460 to 480 range. So significant revenues, and we're a pretty diversified company at this point.
What would be the investment that you put into that building to make it marketable, we'll use that word, to start manufacturing?
Yeah, in total, it's, and I think it was presented to the town in the package, but it's about $100 million investment into the building. Again, we benefit from the existing clean rooms and existing infrastructure and offices there, so we're leveraging that. But we're putting a significant investment into the building. These types of clean rooms, because we have living cell-based products that can't be terminally sterilized, it has to be the most rigorous type of clean room. So they're very expensive to build, but we've already determined the budget for that. We just had a significant capital raise of about $130 million, and part of that was intended to support this project.
What is the pay range that you would start these folks out at?
These are, very highly paid jobs. Our manufacturing people are college graduates, and, the range is, I think it's 50-something thousand to, over, 150,000. I think the average that we were looking at is around 100,000 for the type of job that we'll have at this facility. So very well-paid job.
If I may ask also if there's something that you can do with the HR department as far as giving Smithfield residents if you use a point system, a couple of points, so we can get some of our Smithfield residents to work up there, we would greatly appreciate that. Any other questions from the council?
It said you're looking for a tax stabilization agreement from us. What's your timeline on that? It looks like you're not going to be beginning operations until July of 2027.
Well, yeah, we'll be paying, I'm referring to Matt on the details of that, but, we now have a lease for the building, so we'll be paying taxes soon on that. So we need to, in terms of, we've executed the agreement, but it's contingent upon getting the tax stabilization agreement from the town.
And how many years would you need for a tax stabilization agreement?
What did we request, Matt?
Right now.
Can you state your name for the record?
Yes, Matt Pambianchi with PricewaterhouseCoopers. We've been working with Bob and Chris, and the current draft tax stabilization agreement is a 15-year with an extender of 5 years on that for a 20-year tax stabilization agreement.
So our current ordinance has a maximum of 10 years. Were you aware of that?
I believe I was not aware of that. I think what we discussed is that it would be match the lease term of 15 years with an extension of 5. So I think we discussed 20 years as a total. I believe Rubius had the 20-year tax stabilization agreement as well.
Right, but our ordinance was changed since then. Our ordinance could still change. We are, as you may have heard earlier, we are going to have a public hearing on possible changes to the ordinance. So, but I was just wondering what you actually would require, what would be the minimum number of years that you would require to make this work?
The current draft agreement that we've discussed with the town manager and the assessor is 20 years, and that's what we've gone through as a draft and we've discussed and agreed on internally so far.
Because I noticed that most of the benefit from what you've been negotiating was in the first, it seems like, and usually with these, capital investments, most of the capital investment occurs within the first 10 years. And I think that's why we ended up here with a 10-year ordinance.
Yeah, the $100 million that Pat had referred to is within, I think, 5 or 6 years.
Okay, so why would you need an agreement that's longer than 5 or 6 years, or 7, 8, 9, 10?
I believe the intent was to match the lease of the property to get the stabilization over the lease of the property.
Right. Would an agreement, if our ordinance wasn't changed or was changed to an agreement which had a 10-year tax stabilization agreement, but with the possibility of extensions of, 5 and 5 years, would that also work?
I believe I'd have to discuss it with the client, but yeah, I believe that with extensions and yes, in there to match the lease term of 15 years, I think that, we could discuss that further, but that's something that they can discuss.
Any other questions?
I just have a question. Well, first of all, thank you for coming. Thank you for the presentation. I think the work that you guys are doing is really awesome and life-saving, and I thank you for choosing Smithfield for your Rhode Island location. It definitely means a lot to have these types of businesses in town. I just wanted clarification on the product necessarily. Is it, by commercial, do you mean it's over the counter, like people can buy these products, or is this administered by medical professionals?
These are all prescriptions.
Prescriptions, okay.
So, we ship them directly to hospitals, physician offices, so they're not over the counter.
Okay, okay. They seem a little too high-tech for over the counter, but to get the full picture, I was curious. But yeah, thank you so much for coming.
Sure.
Any other questions? Senator DeCoya?
Thank you, Mr. President and honorable members of the Town Council. David Tacoya, 114 Austin Avenue. I'm speaking in my capacity as a Rhode Island State Senator representing the town of Smithfield, North Providence, and Lincoln, District 22. One of the council members, Councilmember Ionati, mentioned about the ordinance, the town ordinance, regards to a tax stabilization agreement. At the request of the town council in 2024, I was asked to submit a piece of enabling legislation, which I sponsored in the Senate, and Representative Constantino sponsored in the House. It was sponsored on February 12, 2024, and it was subsequently passed by the Rhode Island General Assembly that essentially mirrors the tax stabilization agreement of the state of Rhode Island, and it allows Smithfield, which at one time was only 10 years, to go to a 20-year agreement. Now, I know you may need to amend your ordinance, but I just wanted to put on the record, that was at the request of the town council, and you do have the ability, this council does, to go to a 20-year agreement, and I'll just submit this document to the...
Thank you, Senator. Any questions, Senator DeCoya? Hearing none. Mr. Bennett? Oh, thank you. Front and center, please.
Thank you, Council President and members.
State your name, please.
My name is Jim Bennett. I'm President of Commerce Corporation in Rhode Island. I've been partnering with this company. It's very exciting for, my position. We don't get a chance to recruit companies from Massachusetts that often, particularly publicly traded companies, particularly companies that already have revenues. I'm going to touch on a couple of different things and kind of tie it all together. I'm really a business guy. I'm not as much a government person as I am a business person, and we all know how difficult it is to attract companies and grow companies in the Northeast. So when we get a situation like this, Rhode Island's got a secret sauce, and the secret sauce is that we can move quickly, we can get the leadership together, sponsorship in the House with Representative Constantino, Senator Tacoyan, and of course all our leadership. That's the first thing. Companies, they want their incentives, but they really want to be in business as quickly as possible. In fact, originally when we had to keep this thing quietly, the code name internally was Alacrity, which I had to look up what it meant, but it's supposed to mean quickness, to get it done as fast as possible. So that being said, we had to go through several different boards, Commerce Board, Life Sciences Board, special meetings all along the way to show them that we really wanted them to come to Rhode Island. Granted, we had a CEO that was from Johnston, had been educated at Bryan College, and the company had a lot of differences than what had gone in there before. Number one, they have revenues, $500 million worth of revenues, which some of the other companies, Council President, you mentioned, had difficulties because they were pre-revenue companies. This company's not only doing that, but they're bringing jobs. When we look at this job incentive program we have, we don't typically see the average job being over $60,000. Here we have it close to $110,000. So that was exciting. And the other exciting part is that I know that Smithfield's a pro-business community. We all know that. There's business people on this council, and they understand business. So I would just, it's all set and ready to go. It's all set and ready to go. The one thing that we need to get it straight is this tax stabilization agreement. Everything's ready to, the $100 million will start to be spent with good union-paying jobs, by the way. And so I think whatever you can do to speed the process up without breaking any rules or anything like that. We've got something here. We have to show them that we really want them to come to Rhode Island, to come to Smithfield. So, John, Council President Sassoni, if you could certainly do whatever you can to make the process go as fast as we possibly can. That's our secret sauce. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett. It's almost like when we played hockey against one another. You could never get the puck by me.
No, but I kept my head up.
You kept your head up.
I had to keep my head up with you. And by the way, condolences to Reynolds, to Coach Lillibridge, who was just a great guy.
Yeah, he was.
A great man, a great coach.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions from the council? Hearing none, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the company?
Thank you, appreciate it.
Good evening, Tom Hodgkins, 200 Front and Pike. I certainly appreciate the presentation tonight. I was a little surprised because it's been the council's practice when initially taking up an application like that to just focus on the procedural aspects of it. Is there any proposed amount of this tax stabilization agreement at this point? The question's for the town.
Chris, our tax assessor can speak on that.
Chris?
Whatever you can speak on at this point, because everything's kind of nothing's formally completed yet.
I mean, there's a proposed payment schedule that's still confidential at this point, so I don't know what we're allowed to talk about. But I mean, in general terms, we've got a proposed payment schedule where we'll.
Is there a draft? Everything has not been finalized yet.
Correct. So we have a draft payment schedule. It increases the payments from what
So-
they are
so-
now.
So if it's in draft form, you're not going to talk about it tonight?
Well, correct. I can just generalize it that it's going to increase the revenue that we receive from the property over the term.
So I think Mr. Hodgkins obviously is getting at, what's the cost going to be to the taxpayers, obviously, once this is finalized? There's an application that's been submitted. That application, it's my expectation that that application is not going to be moved forward tonight. It's not going to move forward until the hearing, the public hearing on potential ordinance amendments takes place. And then the tax stabilization agreement, at that point, the application that's on file would be forwarded to the town council and then referred to the Budget and Financial Review Board for action.
So that being said, how much can I talk about the confidential draft payment schedule?
Well, I know we've been in discussions with the company, and just clarify this, the revenue out of this agreement is more, that we're going to get more revenue, even with the tax stabilization agreement, than the building sitting empty.
Absolutely. And with the building sitting empty, we are in danger of the value being reduced, especially now that we're reevaluating the town and it's been 2 years vacant. So we will not only stabilize and increase the revenue, we'll avoid reducing the revenue.
Isn't the tax stabilization draft agreement, it's a draft agreement, it hasn't been finalized, obviously. Wouldn't something like that be part of the application? I mean, which comes first, the agreement or the application? Because the application without this tax stabilization agreement doesn't really have any information in it. And that's might have what went to the public as part of the information packet. So the public's looking, it's on our agenda, and they don't see any numbers.
Process as the ordinance stands is that the council accepts the application. The application requires some information about the investment and the jobs and a letter of good standing. And then the application is to be forwarded to the Budget and Financial Review Board for an advisory opinion, just the application. Then it comes back to the council. The council would then set a public hearing on the ordinance and the agreement itself. At that point, same with the ordinance, once the public hearing is set, part of that public hearing advertisement is the actual contract, draft form at least, would be part of that advertising piece. So until the public hearing is scheduled, the draft agreement will remain confidential.
So you're saying that the budget board doesn't even see the draft agreement?
That's how the ordinance is written.
Chris, as part of the application, the final agreement should be included as part of the application, because the Financial and Budget Review Board's making advisory recommendations to the town council. Once the agreement's in its final form, should be incorporated into the application, because it's the Financial Budget Board of Review's job to give advice and basically advise the council, give the council an advisory opinion as to the merits of any potential agreement.
Can I just clarify it? So it's the intent with the new ordinance that we update our application so everything is in order. And at that time that everything's in order, then everything will be submitted to go through its process. But the agreement right now is tentative, and the application has to be received first, and the application hasn't been received. So when the application's received, you'll get the whole thing.
No, there's been an application that's been submitted.
I know, and it doesn't meet our ordinance
Right,
according
so
to
it's-
you.
right.
So we're not going to, I'm assuming we're not going to accept that.
Tonight would be, for purposes of the agenda item, you're going to table that item.
Whatever
Till a
the
public
coun-
hearing occurs
Right.
on the ordinance.
Whatever the council wants to do, but I want to make sure all paperwork's in order, and we follow the proper procedure. And if the application doesn't get accepted, then the agreement doesn't go anywhere at this point.
But we had a question for Mr. Hotchkins about the agreement. And if the agreement is part of the application, how can the agreement be confidential? And that's on our agenda tonight.
Well, I don't.
Which we're tabling, yes,
Right.
but how can that be confidential if it's part of the application?
Well, it hasn't been, the only part of the application that's been submitted is the actual application. There were no attachments to it.
So if I can further clarify, our application does not meet the requirements of the ordinance. And this is where I'm hung up with this thing. The application needs to be revised, and all the appropriate paperwork that needs to go with it needs to come with it. And that's, the application does not follow the ordinance like it should. So updating the ordinance and having a proper application with the proper signatories, submitting the appropriate paperwork will solve this problem. But at the moment, it is not clear whatsoever what they're supposed to submit. And I think with updating the ordinance and us working on properly having the proper application, all of that will come in.
But I also think, because this thing's been bouncing around like a ping pong ball, that Chris, Anthony, and the town manager need to coincide with one another to make sure this application is done right, and the information needs to be brought forth to the council for us to make a decision. We have people prior to the chief being here, going out and doing negotiations when nobody knows anything about it. It's not the way to do business, not the way to do business. And I personally don't like coming in the bottom of the ninth, coming out of the bullpen with no ball. So the three of you guys need to work together to make sure that we all get the right information moving forward. Any other questions for the council?
I have some. So to go back to my original question, the context of that is that last time the town took up a tax stabilization agreement in 2023, when the application was initially submitted, I came to the council and I asked if there was a proposed amount or a proposed term. And the answer that the town officials gave at that point was no, there was none. We know that was not accurate because afterwards we found out that there was a proposed agreement that had been negotiated, and that number was then presented to the Budget and Financial Review Committee. I'm really at a loss to understand how the council could take a position that a proposed agreement is confidential when our ordinance requires that the application is sent from the council to the Budget and Financial Review Board at a public meeting. Public meeting. Is that what's going to happen tomorrow night? Is that meeting going to be public?
Tomorrow night.
Wasn't there a Budget and Financial Review Board meeting tomorrow night?
No, they can't, there's not going to be anything, well,
No.
I don't want to speak for the
We're
council.
tabling it.
Because that's on the agenda, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
We're gonna
it's not
table it.
happening.
Not happening.
Well,
Sit tight.
I think the public's entitled to know whatever the proposed term or amount is or whatnot.
I don't disagree with you.
Before that occurs. I was intending tonight to just speak on the application procedurally, because that's been the council's practice at this initial hearing, so I'll stick to that, other than a couple comments I want to make about the presentation. There was a question about when the agreement may start. Our ordinance requires that the proposed work or investment is completed by December 31st of the preceding year of the tax year to be eligible for a tax stabilization agreement. So if this is going to, if the construction is going to be completed in 2027, then there's no way that this stabilization agreement could begin before 2028, the following tax year. So the relevant date is what's going to be done by December 31, 2027. There's no room in our ordinance to give these folks a tax stabilization agreement with an uncompleted project or an uncompleted investment.
Well, I think the answer to that is the tax that they'd be paying doesn't change anyway until there's a certificate of occupancy.
Right.
Until the project is complete. So.
Right. So there's no rush to take up this application.
That's
within the
not,
next
that's not the situation. Well, tell us what is correct then.
I still have some questions after that. Thanks.
The assessment date's December 31st. On that date, if there's partial construction, then the partial construction is assessed. If it's 80% complete and is worth $1 million, they get taxed at $800,000.
Thank you. I mean, I think on that point, our ordinance is clear that to be eligible for the stabilization, work would have to be done by the 31st. I wanted to speak to the application itself. What you have is an application from this firm of Orange Genesis. I probably didn't pronounce it right. What's been noticed tonight is an application from this firm. What's been proposed in the motion is a contract between the town and Orange Genesis. My understanding from the presentation tonight, from the filings to the council, and also to the testimony to Commerce Corporation, is that this firm will be a tenant or lessee. Our ordinance does not permit a tax stabilization agreement with a tenant or a lessee. Our tax stabilization agreement only permits this council to consider a tax stabilization agreement with a property owner. Our ordinance mentions that several times in the purpose. The council may enter into agreements with property owners. 32119, authority may enter into agreement with owner of commercial and manufacturing property located in the town.
Tom, you're 100% correct. So any application that gets submitted would need to be signed by the owner of the real property and the prospective owner of the personal property.
Okay.
Seeking
So-
a tax stabilization agreement. Correct.
And what's been submitted tonight is not an owner, an agreement from the property owner. So I'm wondering how that agreement was certified as complete to be presented to the council. I don't understand that.
We are too.
So I think it's clear that it's only property owners that would be eligible for this agreement. I don't think the council has authority to take this up. I don't think they have authority under our ordinance to send this to the Budget and Financial Review Board.
We're not doing that.
Okay, for review.
We're not doing that.
I just want to be clear about that.
And we're taking up the ordinance at the next meeting.
Okay. And the proposed changes will be provided publicly at some point?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Okay. I would also ask that, I know you're not putting this forward now, but I'd ask that if this does come to a point where, because I'm kind of unclear about what the proposed process is in terms of this application, but I would ask that when this is noticed for a hearing, if it is, that the council would ask the town officials to come with a couple pieces of information regarding their testimony. One is the amount of tax that would be due annually if the property is not subject to a tax stabilization agreement and the project goes forward. And then secondly, the amount of the tax that would be due annually if this project does not go forward, based on the current state of the property. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Any other questions?
So, a couple of things. I'm sorry, Kenneth Souza, 2 Williams Road, Vice Chair of the Budget and Finance Review Board. First, I wanted to congratulate these men to my left, and I appreciate your time and patience. I have asked, and I hope will be provided, a copy, it was hard to see, a copy of the presentation for it, because there's a lot of great stuff on there. And I'm glad you picked the 2 best universities in the state that I both happen to be an alumnus of. And one is my employer, just for doing that. But I'm here for one reason, and there's been a lot of talk. I just want to make sure that when I go to the meeting tomorrow as the vice chair, I'm going to recommend that it be tabled. Okay, because I don't want it to be part of that, so there's really no reason.
You have nothing, so.
That's my point. And
You're gonna have nothing to
A lot
act
of
on.
consternation about this, so there's no reason to have a presentation, Bob and Chris there. We're just going to go over that item. I just want to make sure. Okay, thank you.
100%. Thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions of the council? Hearing none. There are no license? No. Need a motion?
Motion to table this item.
Any discussion?
Is this to the next meeting, to the gen? Is it to the, what are
No,
we
it'd
doing?
be
The next meeting?
until after the,
Can it be done
Oh,
the same
after
day
the-
as the public hearing for the ordinance, or it has to be done the following meeting?
you need a new application.
Okay.
Joining the owner.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's just tabled.
So table, period, until further notice.
Second.
We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Nays? Ayes have it. There's no licenses, no old business. The new business, just went through that and tabled it. Any public comment? Hearing none. Have a motion to adjourn? Second?